Welcome. Let's part 2. Let's get started. Find the area of a rhombus that has a perimeter of 40, one diagonal that measures 8. So if it's a rhombus, it means all the sides are congruent. So I'm going to go with they're all 10. The diagonals are going to bisect. So that makes this 4 and 4. And the formula for this is area equals diagonal 1 times diagonal 2 divided by 2. Well, I know the first diagonal is 8. I just need to find the second diagonal, but this is also a 90 degree. So with that 90 degree, we have a right triangle. So we can go 4 squared plus, we'll call this x squared equals 10 squared. And we can find that by doing actually 10 squared and then subtract the 4 squared, which will give us 84, and take the square root of that answer. And so we get x equals 2 rad 21. But that's only half of it, so we have to double that. So the whole thing is going to be 4 rad 21. Doesn't say how to leave the answer, so I'm going to leave it in simplified radical terms. So I'm going to do 8 times 4 off here in the calculator to get 32, divide it by 2. I'm going to get 16, and then slap on that rad 21 and square centimeters. All right. Find the area of the rhombus. This is way easier. This is just 10 times 14 divided by 2. I believe that's going to be 70, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not. And that's units squared because I don't see a unit on it. Find the area in the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 24. So that means the radius is 12. Area is pi r squared. Circumference is 2 pi r. So this one's just going to be 24 pi. And then 12 squared is 144 pi. And this is in centimeters, square centimeters, and this is just centimeters. Circumference is just one dimensional, not two. All right, volume. So this is volume is equal to big B times H. I can pick the big B on this one to be anything. I'm going to pick it to be this guy. So this is a 3 by 4. So that's going to be 3 times 4. And then the height for this is going to be the distance between my two congruent bases, which is going to be 9. Essentially, with a prism rectangular, you just kind of multiply length times width times height. So you learned in middle school, but we get 108 cubic centimeters this time. So here, my base figure, which I'll be using my lines to figure out, is this guy. This is volume equals big B times H. The big B here is going to be 8 times 15 divided by 2, and the height, again, which I'm going to use in yellow, is the distance between those bases of 19. So 8 times 15 is 120 divided by 2. So the area of this triangle is 60 times the height of 19. And we get 1,140 cubic inches. All right. So a cylinder has a more straightforward one. It is pi r squared, which is basically the volume of the base figure, times height. And R10 is our diameter, so our radius is 5, so it's going to be pi 5 squared times our height, which will go in yellow again, which is 14. That's going to be 25 times 14, so we're going to get 350 pi. I don't see units, so we'll go cubic units. Again, on the final, you won't have to worry about units, it'll be in the answer. This one we don't have the radius, but we do see that this is a right triangle, so we're going to go ahead and solve our right triangle by using the Pythagorean theorem. And so we got 40 squared plus x squared equals 41 squared. So again, I can just take the 41 squared, subtract the 40 squared. I'm just subtracting that in one step. You get 81. Square root of that answer is 9. So my radius is 9. Now my actual volume formula is actually 1/3 pi r squared times height. So my height here is 40. Right there in H. And we're going to use radius of 9. So we get 1/3 pi 9 squared times 40. And again, leave the pi out of it. So we're going to get 9 squared times 40 divided by 3. So that gives me 1080 pi. And that is in cubic centimeters. All right, faux. So this also has our 1/3 because it's a pyramid and cone have that 1/3, but then big B times h. The base of this figure is an 18 by 18 square. And then the height here is going to be 20 as it is perpendicular to the base. So again, we just kind of multiply all those numbers together. 18 times 18 times 20, and then divide it by 3. And I got 2160 cubic centimeters. Find the volume of a sphere with a diameter of 24, so the radius is 12. The volume of the sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So we just do 12 in there for the cube. And on my calculator, I typically will write 12 to the 3rd power times 4 divided by 3. You can break that up into 2 steps. That's 2304 pi, and that is cubic centimeters. All right. Write down the ratios for scale factor, surface area, and volume ratio. Well, scale factor is just 1-dimensional, surface area 2-dimensional, and volume 3-dimensional. Boom, boom, boom. And the surface area ratio of two solids is 16 to 49. So I like to kind of draw this little table. And so this is 16 over 49. So I want to find the scale factor. So to go from here to here, I have to square root. So I'm going to square root 16 and 49, which would leave me with 4 over 7. So that's my scale factor. And then to go from here to here, I have to cube it. So I'm going to do 4 cubed over 7 cubed, which is going to be 64 over 344 for our volume ratio. There we go. All right, the height of cone A is 9, and the similar height is 12, so I have A to B. So I have 9 to 12. And the volume of cone A is 108, so that's the volume. What's B? So we need to get a volume ratio over here. Right now we're given an A to B ratio, so I have to cube these. 9 over 12, fortunately, reduces to 3 over 4. So I can take, say, 3 over 4 and cube it and put that in there. So if I actually take 3 over 4 and I go cube the answer, I get 27 over 64. So that's 3 times 3 times 3 on top, 4 times 4 times 4 on the bottom. And now we have a volume ratio set equal to my volume. And then we just cross multiply. 27 times x equals 64 times 108, which again, I just do my calculator real quick, which is a large number of 6912, and then we divide by 27, and we should get 256 cubic inches for my missing piece. And I called it x, but really it's an x. It's the volume of cone B. Find the area of a circle whose circumference is 48 pi. 48, just 48. Okay. Well, circumference is 2 pi r, and it's equal to 48. So we just divide by 2 pi. That would cancel, so r is going to equal, and we just take 48 divided by 2 pi. So we get 7.639. That's my radius, so now I just put that in the area formula. Pi r squared, so that's going to be pi 7.639 squared. I already have it in my calculator, so I'm just going to go ahead and square this answer. And then times by pi. It says leave pi in the answer, so I guess I won't times by pi. Let's go back. I'm just going to do answer. What is the answer again? It was 58.36. And that's pi. So typically that one wouldn't do it quite that way. I think there might have been supposed to be a 48 pi there, but oh well. Find the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 14. Well, the radius is just 7. it's 2 pi r, so it's just 2 times 7 pi. That one's pretty easy. In centimeters. And this one was square centimeters. All right. Whew, 51. Okay, so this one you could have multiple answers on this one, but major arc is over 180, so this is 180 from here to here. So I'm going to go C to E to, I believe that's a B. Minor arc is anything less than 180, so we'll go EG. A semicircle is going to be exactly 180, so CGE. And a central angle starts in the middle, or has a vertex in the middle, so that's EDG. Again, it has an angle. An inscribed angle has a vertex on the circle, so I'm going to use G. So it's going to be KGC. All right, given the circle, find the following arc and angle measurements. All right, so first of all, I'm just going to fill this out as like a little puzzle. If that's 47, that's 47. Those should add up to 180. So if I take 180, subtract 47, and subtract 82, this should be 51 in here, which is also 51. That's 62. This is also 180, so I'm going to go ahead and take 180 and subtract 62. So that should be 118. So I got everything on the outside. I could do some inscribed angles on the inside. This is 62, so that's half of 62, which is going to be 31. That's 118. Half of 118 is going to be 59 in here. And this is opening up to 180, so it's going to be 90. All right, so let's just go ahead and fill everything out. HMJ is that 90 degrees. Again, because it's opening up to 180, so it should be half of that as an inscribed angle. MHJ is half of 118, which is 59. KL, we found out by knowing all three of these would add to 180. And then central angles are congruent to their arcs, so that's 51. HLJ is 180, it's a semicircle. And LJM is going to be 82 plus 118. So add those two together, we get 200 degrees. All right, here we go. BAC is this angle here, and BDC is this angle here. Now they're both opening up to the arc BC, which means they should be congruent to each other. So we're going to set them equal to each other. And solve. I'm going to subtract 9x. That should leave me with 6x. I'm going to add 22. That's going to leave me with 36. I should get x equals 6. And then BC, we got to plug it back into one of these. Doesn't really matter which one. So 9 times 6 plus 14. So this is 68 right here. That's the inscribed angle, so we have to double it to get the arc of 136 for BC. All right. Oh, one of my favorites. Given the circle, find MAT. Well, this is 122, which is the same as this, but MAT is an inscribed angle, so it's half, so we just divide by 2. That gives me 61 degrees. All right, given the circle below, solve for FD. Well, we can actually find FD. If I put in this guy right here as 13, we have a right triangle of 10 squared plus x squared equals 13 squared. Again, typically what I'll do is I'll do 13 squared, and then I subtract the 10 squared right away, and then take the square root of that answer, which for right now we'll leave it as x equals the square root of 69. Now that's only half of it, so we have 2 of those, so x is going to equal 2 square root 69, so I'm going to double that, and let's get the decimal. It's about 16.61 in length. All right, here our rule is if it is tangent to the same circle and point, those pieces are congruent. So that's 10, that's 10, that's 14, that's 14, that's 9, that's 9, that's 8, that's 8. And we just basically have to add up all of our numbers. So let's go ahead and do that. Well, we have 2 10s, so that's 10 plus 10, 14 plus 14, 9 plus 9, that's 1 too many 9s, 8 plus 8, and we get 82. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, write equation in standard form given our point and our radius. So first of all, our standard form is going to be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So we plug in our h and our k, which is these two pieces. That's going to be x minus a negative 8, that's going to make it a positive 8, plus y minus a positive 9, it's going to look like a negative 9. And then r squared, that's going to be 12 squared, which is 144. Our pull the center out of this, again, it's going to look the opposite. So it's going to be a positive 4, negative 7. And this is going to be the square root of 18, which, if you take the square root of 18, it's approximately 3 rad 2, or in decimal form, about 4.24. All right, we are almost there. We're getting to the end. All right, write the equation of the circle in standard form. So this is where we want to use complete the square. We're going to do x squared plus 12x plus blank. That's our first grouping. And then we're going to do y squared minus 4y plus blank. That's going to be my second grouping. And then it's going to equal, I'm going to subtract the 12 over. And then I'm going to do plus blank plus blank. Okay, so it's b divided by 2 squared. So that's going to be 12 divided by 2 squared. So that's going to be 6 squared, which is 36. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Same thing here, it's going to be negative 4 squared. Negative 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. So add 4 over there. And so we're going to factor this. What multiplies to 36 adds to 12. That would be 6 and 6. So x plus 6 squared. I guess I could write that over here. That's our final answer. And then this right here is going to be what multiplies to 4 adds to negative 4. That's going to be negative 2 and negative 2. And then all of this added together is going to be basically 40 minus 12 is what it looks like. 28. All right. Write the equation of a parabola in standard form given this form. So we get y equals x squared plus 6x plus blank, and we're just going to push 28 off to the side for now. Same thing, we're going to do b divided by 2, so that's going to be 6 divided by 2 squared. That's 3 squared, which is 9. Now here's the difference. Normally we'd add 9 to the other side to keep it balanced, but since we're staying on the same side, we're going to subtract 9 on the outside, so it does stay balanced. This right here is going to give me 3 times 3 gives me 9, 3 plus 3 gives me 6, so x plus 3 squared. And then this is 28 minus 9, which should be, what, 19 on the outside. So our a value right there is positive, which means my graph is going to look like this, going up. So that means I have a minimum. The vertex, well, the vertex of our form is x minus h squared plus k. So it's going to be negative 3, and my k is 19. And my axis symmetry goes through the x value, so it's x equals negative 3. Graph the parabola using transformations, identify and plot the vertex and axis of symmetry. Well, quickly you can just graph the vertex here, which is at positive 2, comma 5. So that's 2, comma, right there. And then the axis of symmetry is going to be going right through that. Just like that, and we see it's negative, so we know it's going to be going down like that. Okay? So a couple of different ways we could do this using transformation. I know we've done it in the past that way. I'm going to kind of show you another way. We could do a little table real quick. And just for funsies. I know where the vertex is, so I'm curious where does it exist at maybe 0 and 1. And I'm curious where it exists at 3 and 4. And I'll show you a really quick shortcut on how to do that. So 0 is pretty easy. We get minus 0 minus 2 squared plus 5. That's just going to be negative 2 squared, which is going to be 4. And that's negative 4 is what it will become, plus 5 is 1. So we're going to be right here at 1. Now when it's 1, it's going to be 1 minus 2 squared. That's going to be 1 minus 1 plus 5 is 4. So we're going to be at 4 right there. Now the axis of symmetry, the whole point of the axis of symmetry is that you can get a point on the perfectly reflected side of that. And so we can kind of just not even need to do the other two. We can find the other ones really fast, and there we go. There it is. We could do a -1 in there if we wanted, but we can see the shape is going in the downward directions. Factor and solve. All right, so what two numbers multiply to 12, add to -8? My guess is there are going to be two negative numbers, and so I'm going to go with -2 and -6. And when it's basic factoring, we can just go straight to x minus 2 and x minus 6. It does say solve, so I'm going to set each one of these equal to 0, which if I add 2 over, I'm going to get x equals 2. Add 6 over, I'm going to get x equals 6. So this one here, we do have to subtract the 19. X squared minus 169. Now I can ask myself what multiplies to 169 and adds to 0. Well, it has to be the same number, so I'm assuming 169 is a perfect square, so I'm going to go ahead and take the perfect square of said number, which is 13. So I'm thinking it's positive 13 and negative 13. Well, if you looked up here, our answer was, when we did basic factoring, is the opposite of what we got in our little guy, so it's probably going to be x equals 13 and negative 13. And that'd be true because we get x minus 13 and x plus 13. If I set those equal to 0, you'd subtract them over and you get one of each. 3 more. All right, so we got one where we can't do our little easier shortcut here, but that's okay. We can split the middle term. So 5 times -12 is going to be our top value, which is 60 negative, and we get 4. Okay, so what numbers multiply to -60 but add 4? So this is where you want to start just kind of guessing some numbers that you think might work. 6 and 10 is the first one that comes to mind, and they do have a difference of 4, so I'm actually going to go with that. Positive 10, -6. My answer isn't 10 and -6, so we have to split the middle term here. So we get 5x squared plus 10x minus 6x minus 12. And here we factor by grouping. What can I pull out of this? Well, I can pull out a 5x. So we get 5x, that ends up being x plus 2. And over here, I want to get x plus 2, so I'm going to pull out a -6. And I should get x plus 2. Those are the same. So I get x plus 2 as one of my factors, which I'm going to set equal to 0. And I get 5x minus 6 as my other factor, set equal to 0. Okay? Then we just solve. So that's going to subtract 2, so we get x equals -2. That's going to add 6, and then divide by 5. So we should get 6 over 5 as our other one. Okay. All right, this next one is factoring by grouping. So we just do what we just did on the top one. And we're going to pull out, it looks like 2x squared, which is going to leave me x minus 5. I want the same thing over here, so I'm going to try and pull out a -8. X and 4 divided by -8 is -5. So I'm going to get x minus 5 equals 0 and 2x squared minus 8 equals 0. So this is going to be x equals 5. This is going to add to 0, 8 over there. Divide by 2, x squared is going to equal 4, and then square root it, x equals plus or minus 2. So we're going to have 2 and -2. So you actually end up with 3 answers on that one, which is why. All right, last but not least, we're going to move everything to one side. This is bigger, so I'm going to move these guys over. And move you over. And add you over. So those are all gone. So we're left with 3x squared minus 13x. That's going to be plus 12 equals 0. And we have to factor, so 3 times 12 is going to give me 36. And what multiplies to 36 adds to -13, so we're going to have probably 2 negative numbers on this one. So let's just double check that I did that right. Yep, okay. So start thinking of our factors, looking at 6 and 6. I don't think that would work. So let's try like maybe 9 and 4. 9 and 4 together does make 13, so I'm thinking that's our guy. Both of them are going to be negative, so we're going to split that middle term. So we're going to get 3x squared minus 9x minus 4x plus 12 equals 0, so we can factor by grouping. So that's going to be 3x, that's x minus 3. And this one I'm going to factor out a negative 4, which is going to be x minus 3. So we're going to set x minus 3 equal to 0, which will end up being x equals 3. And this would be 3x minus 4 equals 0. Add the 4 over, divide by 3, and we get x equals 4 over 3. And there it is, the final one. Alright guys, enjoy.